Hey guys, it's Matt Hanham here and welcome to the Amplify Your Business podcast. Okay, welcome to the Amplify Your Business podcast, and I'm here with Michael Duncan from Meta Creative. Michael,
Hello.
Thanks for being here.
No, not a worry. My pleasure. Absolute pleasure.
Awesome. So we spent a bit of time together last week. We were traveling through Singapore even, at Brand Minds Asia. But I wanted to get you on this podcast. We had hoped to get it done up there, but we
didn't really have too much time, did we?
Ran out of time.
Running around.
If we can maybe just start by saying, like, who are you and what do you do? And if you want to just get within about 5-6 inches of your microphone for the most part, that'll be perfect.
Excellent. Well, as Matt has said, my name is Michael Duncan from Meta Creative, and we're a boutique digital agency concentrating mainly on WordPress websites for clients, and that would be auditing, caring for them, like keeping them up to date, and obviously fresh builds. So yeah, really that's been a real focus over the last 18 months. And we're sort of getting into more of the social media aspect of it, mostly Instagram, because I just find that personally, through my business, I've seen massive growth and some great sort of ROI on just a bit of effort on Instagram. So that's been working really well. But we're still to sort of package that up in regards to how we're going to help clients with it. And a lot of the time as well is just digital strategy, sort of talking strategy with clients about how they can create a little bit of confidence, because I think that's the biggest thing with clients just now is that there's so much to do, it sort of becomes a bit of a scary prospect for them. And a lot of them, websites have obviously been around a long time.
Not that long.
Well, not that long, but long enough in the marketing space. And it's just amazing how many clients still don't get it right. And I've had bad experiences, which I think is probably the biggest thing. I'd say 50% or more of my clients have had a bad experience with an agency or with a web developer that they've tried to use overseas or whatever. And it's given a little bit of a bad rap to the industry. But I like to concentrate on the client and really create that sort of the one-on-one sort of contact. So I think that's the key. Transparency, truth in everything we do, and just building a relationship. And that's what I've really been concentrating on lately. And I've got some clients that have stuck around, so that's good.
Awesome. So I also want to just say we've actually got our first audience member today. Welcome as a guest, but we've had Ben who's just snuck into the room a little bit. So
hey,
first audience member, I'm proud. You should feel very proud, Mike.
I do. I'm happy to be the inaugural.
We might actually, before we even kick it off, do you have a question for Mike Ben at all? So Mike, he runs his design studio, WordPress websites, obviously started a business. Do you have a question at all?
How important is a sales aspect to you? Do you need to offer sort of saleable items on your website?
Do you want to just repeat that?
Yeah, Ben's asked if we sort of offer like sellable items, because we're a service sort of consultancy based industry or business, I should say, where we're sort of dealing with clients, B2B sort of stuff. But we do have, actually over the last 18 months, we've put together from a WordPress point of view some packages for clients that we've put onto monthly retainers at 3 levels for keeping an eye on their website, keeping them accountable on what they're doing on the website, doing the technical updates, the back-end updates, and sort of strategy depending on what level they've done. So yes, we do have that sort of product in place, and I'm looking at doing more, as I was saying, with Instagram, helping clients, putting them onto sort of a monthly retainer, monthly package where we can sort of hold their hands for a little bit and then sort of release them into the world, but still keep in contact. So I think that's the important part. That's why the care packages have worked so well, because initially it was sort of like, the web, you do the web design, say goodbye, and it's like, give us a buzz if there's anything you need. But we found that creates like I don't know, it doesn't, number one, it's not good business, I think. We like to keep in contact with the clients, strategize with them, once every 3 months, and sort of, because the digital world is ever changing, so it's not really a place where you just set and forget. It's something
It's
you've
not static.
it's not static. It's the exact opposite. So yes, we do have sort of products that we've sort of put in place to help clients. And what we try and do is just give them a little bit of confidence online. That's really the big thing, enabling them to sort of see that there is a path,
Yep.
and it's not as scary as
Not
you
as
think.
scary as it sort of appears from the outside, is it?
Yeah.
Awesome. Oh, well, thanks, Ben. I hope
Thank
that
you,
answered
Ben.
the question. So I might change speed a little bit. Actually, no, I won't. So how long have you been around as Meta Creative, and what did it sort of look like at the start?
Ooh, I was talking nearly 2005 when I first started. But I was traditionally, my background is graphic design, so print and branding work. So that's what I did for the first 12 years or so, and I still do. I've got clients that I still do work for. Got some annual reports that I've just finished off for some guys just now, and I still do a little bit of branding work, which I really enjoy because I think the creative aspect of it is, and from a digital point of view, creative is kind of like the key ingredient to get traction through anything. People don't understand or don't realize how important that consistency in your branding, your color, your imagery, your language is. So that's probably
With the natural lean into why you sort of love Instagram
exactly,
as well.
Instagram very visual,
turn that
obviously.
straight into that visual.
So my background's visual, graphic design, but really about 18 months ago, 2 years ago, we were doing a fair bit of sort of digital work, and it was just something I really enjoyed and really loved doing, and thought we could really provide clients with a great service in that respect. So we kind of doubled down on that, but we're still doing graphic design, as I said, for older clients. We're not sort of building business in graphic design or looking for new work in that side of things. But I started working at home. Kids were young. My wife was working full time, so it was a great opportunity to have that flexibility. So I worked from home probably for about 3 or 4 years. So maybe 2009, I moved into, must have been one of Perth's first shared studio spaces. With a couple of guys, Nathan Archer from Archer Imagery, who does photography, and Jared Stillman from, what was his business called? Can't remember. He did video work, so wedding videos and stuff like that. He's now running Jack Stillman, great brand for motorcycle accessories, bags and stuff like that. So check that out if you want to see how Shopify and Facebook work really well. He does it really, really well. So moved in with them for a couple of years, which is great. Nathan had his photography studio there, which is really handy, and it was a synergy as well. We were all in sort of similar types of businesses, so that worked really well. And that was called MD Design back then. But when we shifted out of there into Northbridge,
Pretty creative, the title.
I know, it's terrible, isn't it? It's terrible. So Meta Creative was trying to get my name out of it. So that was good. Back in, so when was that? 2012 maybe. So shared with Nathan, moved into a new studio in Northbridge, the photographer, and I took up some space there. So I've been a gypsy business owner, moving in with other people, and which is a great way of doing it, especially when you're a one-man band. I've had guys working for me before, but we've started to our model now has been to bring it back to myself and using some other guys offshore for some of the work. I've had a development guy that I've been working with for a long time, who's great.
Just contracting you need.
Yeah, contracting them out, and that's been working really well. That's kind of a bit of my background. So really now the focus is WordPress websites, and a little bit of digital strategy, and sort of moving a little bit into social media, a bit like yourself, not really from the content point of view, but more from the strategy, and sort of just helping businesses get going with, say, Instagram or something like that. They
struggle. So, and I understand why, but it's just a huge struggle to just put one foot in front of the other and just do something, especially because it's shit. Like it has to start. At some form of shit compared to where you're going to be in 3, 6, 9, 12 months. And that's, I think, what people's egos don't allow them to get moving, because they're used to being good at everything. And they don't like having to sort of go back to the ground floor. And that's, I think, one of the critical problems. Even with us, deliver a strategy, sure, but then following through, it's all about that
accountability.
Action, and keeping moving. But awesome. So, I mean, look, 12 years in business then?
Roundabout, yes. Well, 13 years, 12 years,
Long
12,
time.
13 years, yeah, a long time. Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
you must have seen some fluctuations and things. Have you got any insight into sort of the high and low points of, even, I mean, the economy? I'm not necessarily talking about yours.
It's a funny one because the photographer always, 2008 hit with the downturn.
Yeah.
I've never felt it.
Yeah.
I've never felt it. I'm sure I've felt it in little ways, but nothing noticeable. I mean, I was working with clients who were in the mining industry as well, so I've definitely seen these guys. I mean, one of the clients, Buru Energy, they went from like 20 cents a share to 350, had a massive office, but then they've come back. So I've seen these sort of changes, but I think my kind of model of business where it's a very one-on-one sort of open communication is, we rely on that sort of partnership. Yeah. So we've sort of we haven't seen a drop off, like people don't just disappear. It's been, I haven't really seen any ups and downs in the economy affecting what we do. So, and I think if you're really targeted on what you want to do and targeting that or concentrating on that customer service, I think you last through that sort of thing.
I think that's a really interesting and important point because, like, just putting a couple of points you said together, you do some annual reports in graphic design. So even if a listed company's had a honking year, good or bad, it still needs to do an annual report. So if you position yourself in the right place, that business is going to, now look, they might not pay 20% more than you might have, and if you
but the trust has been built anyway, so the trust has been built.
So they have to do it, right? So I know some other things, you work with schools and you work with, other players, they're fairly consistent.
Definitely.
They're not going to ebb and flow compared to some trades or really small businesses that are just really running in survival mode, which is where a lot of small business does.
And that's really, where they should be doubling down on the marketing aspect, which is interesting. In that sort of time when, people are not wanting to spend their money, you've got to put yourself out there, and that's where the branding kicks in. That's where that consistency in branding
do the
kicks
opposite.
in.
They stop spending. And there's a couple of reasons.
What I'm saying is they shouldn't.
No, I
it's a really good opportunity actually to really rise above.
It's a conversation I have regularly. Like, don't stop now. Yeah. I know you've got taken.
Yeah, let's maybe shave some money off here, there.
But you're still spending everything else that you spend. This is an important factor.
Electricity, you're still
paying that. You're still paying the staff. You're still paying for everything else. Like, why would you drop this bit out? That's delivering and building a brand.
Especially if you've got confidence in your business as well. And I think that's where maybe some businesses don't have that confidence. So they think the first thing that needs to go is the marketing, which I actually think it should be the opposite. It should double down on it, or at least keep it consistent.
I agree, but it's
short.
I know short and long term, right? It's the thinking.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, let's change speed a little bit. Let's do something strange.
Straight on gold, please. Yeah.
No, it's not strange. Well, actually, it's up to you whether it's strange.
Take your hand off my knee.
Well, I can do that for the whole podcast if you like. But no, look. It's up to you if it's strange. Just something different. What's something outside of work? Something that you do. Something that you do for fun.
Something I do for fun. Well, the last couple of years have been an interesting one. There's been a bit of a change in my kind of life. I mean, my family, my wife and my kids, obviously, are very important to me, and we do a lot of stuff together. And as I said, that flexibility over the years has been brilliant with the kids. Being able to drop them off at school and go.
Technology, obviously, allowing you to do anything.
Yeah,
from anywhere.
Definitely, which has given me a lot of flexibility. So that's great. Dogs as well. We've got a couple of beautiful dogs. Chocolate Lab that we love, who's only a year old, a bit of a nutcase.
Oh, a year old.
Yeah, I know.
It's like having a new baby in the house.
Yeah. He's great. Things, I mean, I've really been concentrating on like a lot of podcasts, listening to podcasts, I've really come to a point in my life, and this was the question I asked with Gary Vee, was, I'm thinking a bit deeper about life, about philosophy.
Right. Well, listen, we're going to hit some of that philosophy later.
Okay. So don't go there yet.
Just give me something more interesting. No, I'm going to touch on some philosophy.
So what do I like doing? What do I like doing?
Stuff as well. So just something. What do you do? What's something that you do outside of work that just keeps you sane? Because I think we all need a bit of something, right? What is it for you?
Red wine. I like red wine.
Red wine.
Yeah, I like to have the odd glass of red wine. I used to surf, and it's something I keep meaning to get back into. Yeah. It's on the list to sort of crank up again.
I have my wetsuit and boards and that's sitting there too. They haven't done much. Just sits with my pile
like
of guitars.
Once a year I get out and it's like, God, this is so good. And it's sort of like, it's like meditation on steroids surfing as well, because you're out there by yourself, or in Perth you're not by yourself. I
really miss those hours and hours of sitting out the back, just
in the water.
In the water.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Nothing much else. or you're just there. You're just in nature, and it's that's the I know exactly what you're saying, because I really do miss it.
I've been, and I think you have as well, and a few of the crew we sort of catch up with. Meditation's been quite a big part in that sort of change over the last couple of years. And as I said, surfing is just like, it is meditation on steroids. You know, you're out in nature, which is another thing that I'm really trying to do, and that's something we love doing, is getting out into the hills and just getting lost for a little bit, you know, in the greenery.
You do that with the family?
Yeah. Myself and Joanne. Leave the kids at home.
Yeah, well, why not, if you can, right? As long as they don't burn the house down.
Exactly. No, they're old enough now. Well, actually, 14 and 17. So you'd hope they've got a handle on how to switch the oven off. So, but they're good. Yeah,
cool.
Good.
So did you always know that you'd run a business? Was that always in the back of your mind?
Not really. No, I wouldn't say I was a born entrepreneur or business owner. Really, I think it was just sort of. I can't even remember why I did it. I think it was, obviously the kids were young and Joanne was working full time, so I think I just took the plunge. And I think the place I was working at the time I was a bit pissed off with, and you know, the boss was lovely, but he was a very demanding character, and I think that just got to me, and I was like, nah, let's just give this a go. And I had a couple of clients that I'd done a little bit of work for, and it just snowballed from there. Just sort of joined a BNI actually, which was really interesting.
Yeah, okay.
Back in the day, so old school networking, which, to be honest, I would never join it now again. But at that time was amazing. Like, it was once a week, obviously brekkie, and the people I've actually met from that experience at BNI are still in my life now, and I probably wouldn't be where I am today without it, really. Which is interesting.
Is that, do you think that's interesting because now things have changed more digitally and you just don't need to go there?
Well, I think places like BNI haven't adapted to the modern kind of networking. Yeah. And I think even there's a lot of networking happening in Perth, but I don't know if they're doing it right or not. I think it's just great getting out meeting people without any sort of clause, you know, like you must do this. And that's where BNI, I think, are losing it, where you've got to hit your targets, which is like, I get enough of that in my own business. I don't need to do that if I'm casually meeting up for a coffee or whatever. You know? I've been in them, but I'm sort of aware of that the process, and it's a funny setup. You've got your real estate agent, your insurance broker, your health, and your graphic designer and web designer. Yep. So it's, but no, I mean, fair dues to it. It was great at the time, and as I said, I've got clients still to this day that I got through that process. So,
so did you think you were a business then, or did you really sort of, like, was there anything holding you back from sort of saying, no, I'm not just a guy that's done a couple little side jobs. I have a real business now. Yeah. I mean, I think that's what we were talking about this the other day, that imposter syndrome. Yeah. You still sort of get that to this day, where you sort of think, you know, do I deserve to be here? Am I as good as that person? Which is a terrible way to do anything. You should never be comparing yourself to anybody and just concentrate on what you're doing. But no, it's... I've kind of forgotten the initial question. I went down a bit of a tangent there. What was... No. Well, I was just saying, was there anything sort of that was holding you back? I mean... No, not really. I obviously think of myself as a business now, and I mean, it's kind of freelance / business / small business, sort of boutique agency. You can call it whatever you want. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I don't think I could work for anybody else ever again. I've said that a few times as well, and it's just... The further you go... Fingers crossed, it's been 12 years now, so or 13 years or whatever it is, so hopefully I've got past that. And I think if I ever was to, I've got a couple of like contingencies. So Tash, my wife, was born on a little island called Niue in the Pacific. Oh, wow. And if everything blows up... Is that where you're going to go? I'm just going to go there and you're just and Richard Branson. I'm just going to farm or run a fishing charter, or just disappear. Or that, I don't know, be a barista for someone. I just don't know if I could really go back anymore. Like, I have gone back in the past. Especially because you're from a corporate sort of background. Very corporate. Like, I started life as an accountant and went through that phase. And I have, against you. Well, no. People do. Look at the creative accountant guy. Look at his nice blue suit. But, in his BNI group, in his BNI group. So, no, not me. But I think, you know, like, I've done it before. Like, I've gone back, like we've seen the concept before of going back to do something to learn a skill. So definitely. At one point I was running 2 businesses, and I went back and started working for a property group. So I wanted to develop some property. So I did that for like, I don't know, 12 months maximum. I was still running my businesses on the side, trying to anyway. One was being sold, one was being run by someone else. So it was a pretty crazy, hectic time. And then they offered me like directorship and a bit of equity, and I said no, and they were like, "What?" I was like, "No, I didn't want to be the little fish. I wanted to come in and learn and understand how these syndicates worked." And I went off and did that as well as a business. But I think that's sort of part of the process. But now looking back, unless I was making a decision like that, to go and actually
learn a trade
something, which you don't need to anymore because it's all online, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Then
there's a free course for everyone.
I don't know where we'd be. Maybe we'd all have to just like share a big tent somewhere and huddle up and be all the entrepreneurs that just couldn't do it anymore.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. I'll come to the island as well. Yeah.
Yeah, come to the island. It'd be great. We can have a great time over there.
We can get Gary Vee over for a talk as well.
He'll love it. That's for sure. Anyway, so look, I guess how did you first made revenue? I guess with a couple of contacts that you had.
Yes.
I mean, that's I think what people really struggle to do at times is to just
initial
start.
contact.
I've started a business, but have you got any revenue? No. Or they go, oh no, I'm a lean startup, and we're just proving, we're proving a concept, and later on we'll get some revenue. But so it sounds like you sort of, it happened relatively easy for you, but it's not like you hadn't created that situation.
Definitely.
So how did you? Run me through the moment when you had to price up your first job outside.
Actually, it was funny. I think it was interesting because a few of the first jobs I did were annual reports, and they were big. They were fairly big money.
They keep coming back up these annual reports.
Yeah, they're fairly big money. I did a couple little logo jobs for friends. I can't remember what the first for $70 an hour or something like that, and I can't remember 3 hours, like $210 for a logo design. Yeah. And I remember setting up the bank account and sort of getting things happening. But then, getting some print quotes, because obviously when I was working for an agency, I wasn't doing any of the print sort of quoting and whatever. And the first annual report was quite a lot of copies. It was for Arc Energy back in the day, who are now, I suppose, have transformed into Buru Energy down the track. Eric Streitberg at the helm. Great company, and I've been dealing with them from day one. So to
work with someone for over a decade is pretty impressive, right?
Yeah, and that's I'm friends with the people there, which is a really important factor. But that first print quote was, I can't remember what was the 20,000 copies of their annual report, and their annual report was like 90 pages or more long. Yeah. I remember the printer speaking to me on the phone saying, that'll be round about the 35,000 mark. And this is me by myself, like going, shit, I'm going to invoice out sort of that amount of money. Yeah. Put your markup on it as well. And so it was to playing with the bigger boys, with that sort of stuff. But you just got to do it, and to keep going. Put your prices up, every couple of years, every year, whatever. We're on sort of $135 an hour now for work we do, which needs to go up as well. Actually, I've not hit that one for this year, but maybe next year I'll look into that. Yeah. But that's one thing in business is definitely to keep looking at your pricing. And don't remain stagnant on that. Especially the more experience you get, the more value you are. So you've got to keep that going up.
It's easy not to as well.
Really easy.
Sometimes I'll look up and I'm like, everyone's really busy, and we're not making enough money right now for how busy they are. There's a problem in that pricing structure, right?
And that's a numbers thing. And I've notoriously, or historically, I should say, both historically and notoriously, been really bad with my numbers. Yeah. Okay. As in, looking at my numbers. I don't have staff and stuff like that, so it's a slightly different thing. I need to keep myself accountable, but it's amazing if you really do start just looking at, breaking everything down into numbers, how it kind of all forms into the path.
Well, they paint a picture.
They do definitely paint a picture either way,
Yeah.
So, but business is good. Business is
great.
Good.
All right. So what's the vision then going forward? You're obviously doing a little bit more marketing, but strategy.
Yeah, the strategy stuff I'm really enjoying. A couple of guys recently, and this is through Instagram direct messaging, which has been ridiculously brilliant over the last 2 months for me, organising coffee catch-ups, connecting with small businesses. I've quoted for a few jobs now, just purely from saying g'day on Instagram, obviously targeting small businesses in Perth or businesses in Perth, and that's worked really well. And that's...
See, I'll jump in there because the funny thing about that is it's not Instagram. So what?
No, it's just communication.
Well, what works right now is, well, it's not right now, but always it's communicating on the platform where people are on, but they haven't been hammered yet.
Yeah.
So if you email someone, forget it. If
Yep.
you're now at a point with Facebook, too much. LinkedIn got really spammy. I mean, that LinkedIn's changing, but that's not really my point, so to speak. But now Instagram, people are on there. They get a DM.
More
from
casual.
you. It's you and their friends.
Yeah, and
So
I start the conversation really casual. It's not like, hi, I'm Meta Creative. We do this, we do this, we do this, we do this. I want you to buy this. It's like, g'day, how you going? Your pics are great. Want to catch up for a coffee?
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah, it's a really casual sort of
because you're
approach.
ahead of the mass. The mass isn't doing that yet, which is the key. So I think the point I was making, it's not the platform. Like now, Insta's really good for it.
Yep.
But and in 3 years there'll be another one that is exactly the same. And like messenger bots are now in that same place. People aren't that bothered by a couple of advertising messages in their messenger feed. They will be in 24 months.
Definitely.
We'll destroy it.
I mean, Instagram can ban you if you start chucking out DMs all the time.
Yeah.
They maybe ban you for a day or whatever, and then you get back on board.
But it's not about that mass. You're right. It's targeting them, but I'm just saying they're not. You don't need to go mass.
Yeah, and targeting them in a really sort of personal manner, like not being salesy, and that's just salesy speak and promotion of yourself does not work.
Doesn't get anyone anywhere, right?
Nope.
So,
Nope.
No, so
Be
that's a really good point. Yeah. So the vision is so you're doing
vision. I knew there was.
We're getting there. Hang on, what was my question? Yeah.
Again, like my numbers have been notoriously bad with writing down visions, missions, and all that sort of stuff. But obviously, over the last couple of years, with a bit of change in focus and sort of learning a lot more about this sort of stuff, it is something because the field itself in digital marketing websites is changing so much. Your vision's got to be a little bit flexible as well. WordPress, 35% of the websites in the world are on WordPress, but 2 years from now it could be completely different.
Well, they sort of sit like Facebook, don't they? It doesn't look like anyone's really coming to take them over.
Shopify, from an e-commerce point of view, you'd be silly if you were starting afresh, I think, to not go down that path.
Yeah. But it doesn't have the blanket.
From an e-commerce point of view, something we're looking at doing is moving into Shopify as an offering for clients, rather than traditionally we've been using WooCommerce and integration into WordPress, which works really well. Yeah. But I think Shopify's just got it. It's got it.
So I agree with that in some niches, but it's just I see that with Facebook. Like there's no one really coming at this point. So it'll take a while.
I know, it's bizarre, isn't it? I mean, and if they do come, Facebook will probably buy them anyway. So.
Yeah, before they get there, because they've just got the money to. But I see WordPress the same. Like there's really, there's a couple of niche offerings, and they're excellent, but there's not really any blanket.
Yeah, I mean,
CMS.
it was back. So I've seen actually over the course of time, especially from a printing perspective, layout perspective. Back in the day, we used to use something called Quark Express. Which was like the industry standard for layout, like for typesetting and layout and graphic design. Yeah. You still have your Illustrator and Photoshop for doing your photos and your illustrations and whatever, and then you bring them into Quark Express. Yeah. But then Adobe, who have Illustrator and Photoshop, brought out InDesign. Yeah. Quark didn't change quick enough. They
did a Kodak, did they?
The complete Kodak moment, yeah. And so they I mean, I don't even know. I suspect they're not even. You don't see them anymore. I suspect they're not even around. And Adobe have just even from video editing these days, their platform, their Creative Cloud stuff is just phenomenal. Like they're always changing, updating. Yeah. Their suite of creative offerings for agencies and whatever is just second to none. So. If you're ever thinking about it, just get your whatever $30, $50 a month subscription and do it, because
look, it's cheap, it's not that long ago that if you wanted a new piece of decent software, you'd be outlaying couple of $1,000 for something, and now you can just subscription $60 or something, whatever it is.
So I saw that in the print aspect, and I've seen that now in the last probably last 8 years in the web design or the web development sphere, where Joomla and WordPress were kind of on par at one stage for your content management systems, and Joomla just didn't help themselves again. Yeah, exactly. Really, and some people are stuck with the Joomla site, which they used to move over to WordPress. Yeah. And it's the same thing. They just didn't innovate. And like Matt Mullenweg, the WordPress guy, these people are just on point, and they know what's happening, and they understand the market. They listen to their users. And they change, whereas Joomla and guys like that and Quark just no listening.
Didn't move.
Their product was so good, just leave it, and so that they're now dead in the water, gone. So interesting. It's interesting watching that.
So, I mean, you've been around for a long time. I mean, you've obviously had a relatively stable sort of business through those periods, and you haven't sort of grown too big and small. And you've just had a pretty good set of clients that have allowed you to just keep consistent. But like, you know, what's one of the biggest challenges you've had to face then, and how did you overcome it?
I think the biggest challenge that I face in business is just my internal dialogue with myself and where I want to go. So I think
huge, right?
Yeah. So I think that's probably something. That's something I fight with and struggle with and enjoy at the same time. And it has been especially over the last couple of years, where I have shifted focus into the digital space. I mean, I went to which we know of, the Entourage, a couple of years back to scale the business. You know, I must grow into this agency. This sort of, I must have 80 people, maybe not 80 people working for me, but maybe 8. And it kind of had the opposite effect. It kind of made me look really internally at what I was doing, and I really understood that I enjoyed that one-on-one contact with clients. And I mean, I'm in talks just now with another guy in regards to maybe joining up and sort of, because I do need accountability is probably my biggest thing on all levels, be it financial, creative, day-to-day running of the business. And I need that. I need somebody who's the kind of, not opposite of me, but sort of has a slightly different skill set, but the same kind of casual sort of personality. I kind of need that now in the business. I think that's the next step. So
I've sat in an office by myself as well for small periods of time. It's ruthless.
Yeah, and that's why I've always been
on yourself. Right?
Always been in shared spaces, because I need at least somebody that I can sort of shout to.
You do, but I mean, we're humans, right? We like community. We like engaging with people and things. You know, we just can't. And you know, it's how many people start their new business. They're in their study or they're wherever by themselves, and they're just about blowing their own heads off. Because they just can't. Like, what do I do? Where do I start? There's no consistency. There's no one to grab a coffee.
Let's go and do the washing instead.
Yeah, like it's just it's really a tricky period to work through.
So I think something I've never had really is a pure mentor.
Yeah.
I think I hear a lot of success with people that have had a really strong mentor in their industry, or maybe within a different industry. But I think that's something, or at least somebody that you can bounce ideas off. And I've had a lot of that over the last sort of couple of years, which has been really great with obviously guys we know, Conrad, etc., which has been really important in keeping you accountable to somebody else, at least to keep things moving along. But I think that's my next step, is just to maybe double the size of my business, 2x it, with an extra person in.
Not 10x?
Yeah, not 10x, not yet. 12x maybe. I wouldn't go to 10 and go 12 straight away.
Not a prime number.
Exactly. Yeah. Or 7x. 7 is similarly the magic number.
Seven's the magic number.
You see all these you buy this ebook or whatever for $17 or $37 or $7.
7's my magic number too, because it's my birthday's a 7.
There you go.
It is actually my lucky number, as well as it seems to be the lucky number. So you use it everywhere.
Number 2 is my lucky.
You got to put it in your pricing too, right? 7 on the end.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Do you?
I do. Yeah.
If
I'm ever doing anything like that, I do. Like all my WordPress packages are
with a 7.
Is it 147, 267, and 547?
It works. And do you know how many? I'm sure you have the same thing. Everyone comments like, "Oh, you're going to sell me because there's a 7." Sign it. They sign the bloody thing.
It's the new 99. That's what I reckon.
It is. That's brilliant. I love it. But anyway, digress. So what does a typical week look like then? So how do you then structure your week a little bit, because you're so you need to be self-disciplined.
Yeah, definitely.
How do you
and I still
that?
struggle with that, but I do. I've got like Tuesday, Thursdays I have meetings.
Okay.
So I shouldn't really be here today. But
this is a meeting.
Oh, it is. Yeah, I know, but it's Monday, not Tuesday.
Oh yeah.
I leave Tuesdays and Thursdays for meetings, and I have blocks of time like concentrate on my content in regards to Instagram, social media on Monday afternoons. So I have my Google Calendar is kind of broken up into blocks of time where like project work, call a client. I need to stick to it better. Sorry, Conrad, but it's there, and it's.
So
and
when you say you need to stick to it better,
Finance Friday has been the best one actually. The last couple of years, Finance Friday. Nothing else on a Friday apart from into zero, reconcile, check things, maybe look at some numbers, do that sort of thing. So that's worked. Finance Fridays, everybody should do that.
Finance Friday.
Exactly.
That's a good little hack. I mean, when you say you don't stick to it, I mean, like what percentage? Because I think
I'm pretty good. Like especially with meetings and stuff. And I think again, do your Finance Friday.
Yeah.
Do your meetings on say 2 days only, and like don't divert from that unless it's
Unless you
really have to. And like obviously a really important client says I can only meet on Wednesday, I'm not going to say I'm sorry, I can't, not going to do it. But I will say like I'm free Thursday afternoon or Tuesday or whatever. So that's been amazing. And just just having a little bit of accountability where I look at the calendar and say I should be doing this, and then sort of trying to focus on that. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, the point I was just going to make is that, I did this too, because everyone has self-talk at some level. You miss a couple of those appointments, or you adjust, and you're like, hang on, no, I haven't stuck to my schedule. But like, there's
yourself.
an element of come on, okay, move on. Was it really that big a problem? Can I just reposition that hour over here? And I think it's about just being consistent in what you're doing every week.
And at least, and doing the stuff that needs to be done, I think, and even just handwriting a list out, and when it's project work, I'll say, okay, I need to do this, and this. Prioritize. Start with number one. Get that one out of the way. That's been really good as well. And I think handwritten lists are great. Just on a bit of paper beside your desk, tick it, and ticking it off. It feels good, Once and you look down, you got about 3 or 4 ticked off the list.
Have you ever written something down that you've already done, and then you just write because you hadn't put on the list yet, so you write it down just to have an extra line through?
Brush teeth. Done.
Tick.
Wake up. Yeah. Make bed.
Make bed.
That is again.
Well, actually, that was my next question. So I know you. I know you've got some rituals and habits. Like, let's maybe share what they are.
Rituals.
Some of those little, well, not that kind of ritual, but what I know you've got a bit of some morning routine, some things that you bring into your week just to help. Keep you sane and keep you operating at your best level. What do they look like?
Making the bed's number one. Getting up and maybe not doing it straight away, but before you leave the house, before you get into work, getting in there, tidying up the bed, thing ticked off for the day. And it's just subconsciously is an achievement. Not even subconsciously, it is an achievement. So that's a really good one to do. Cold shower. That's worked really well, and I've sort of not had I have a hot shower to begin with, but then for the last minute or so, hot goes off, and the cold envelops you, and every day it's still a struggle to switch that hot off. But man, it feels good. It's like a slap in the face, and it's a really good start to the day. It's like a sort of bit of a coffee hit, and your body tenses up, and you sort of the muscles and the blood flow and everything like that. It's a really good way to
So you've done this for a long time, but right?
About 18 months without
missing a day.
No, without missing a day. I feel guilty if actually I haven't even felt guilty yet. So because I haven't missed one.
You feel guilty that you might miss one.
That's the habit thing we were talking about before, and that took a little while to get going, but now it is like ingrained in what I do on a day, like the bed. Yeah, I was going to say bed wetting there. I don't do that. Bed making.
Bed wet. Bed make. You can't leave that long.
Well, you have to make the bed if you've wet it. You have to make the bed, or at least change the sheets.
Cool.
So yeah, these two things have worked really well. Meditation is something I do fairly regularly, but need to get better at. I've had about like a 40-day streak maybe of doing it, and then every week I'll probably do a handful of times, but I need to get a bit stricter with that. Because that's something I've found, it just works so well. Jeez, it's just such...
I do the same thing. For 10 years I've been doing it.
Yeah.
But then I'll do a spell, spell.
And
then when you're in a spell, you know how good it feels. You know how important it is.
It's so stupid.
And then something derails you. Yeah. So I'm really interested in the shower thing, because... to do that for 18 months without missing, I know it's a short, because time matters, so it's very quick and easy, but that's incredible to me, because even when I really would say that I do something, like I go to the gym, I do this, I do that, there's always, ebbs and flows and bits that get missed out. To do something consistently for 18 months is huge.
Yeah. So that's been really good. That's been really good.
So let's get back to the content, which you started to lean on a little bit at the start. But so what, who are you listening to right now? What's interesting to you right now?
Just a lot of philosophy and a bit of science stuff mixed in. Started listening to Tim Ferriss a couple of years back. And he's definitely been one of the main catalysts for sort of discovering the philosophy side of things, learning a little bit more about the Stoics, and then delving deeper into all sorts of philosophers, from Nietzsche to David Hume to whoever, I just find it really interesting, that sort of existential thinking, what is life about, what is it?
Me too. I could, if I had the time, I could just spend hours and hours hours.
And it's great for your brain, because too many people are on cruise control in life, work, home, dinner, Today Tonight,
Yeah. The Bachelor.
The Bachelor, Conrad. So yeah, definitely just thinking and getting that brain power working, because I was a bit slack in my 20s. I sort of look back and think, it's a bit of a renaissance for me I'm 44 now. So beginning of my 40s has been my sort of change and sort of really grasping at things and my life and sort of asking questions. I think in my 20s I was probably a little bit slack in that respect, and I sort of wish. But I mean, you definitely no regret.
Yeah.
I've had a great life. So I definitely can't regret anything that I've done. But there's a little bit inside of me that I wish I was 16 when I knew all this stuff. But hindsight's a very
You'd be mean out there on the dance floor if you knew all this stuff when you were 16.
Shit, I would be Richard Branson right now. So what were we talking about? Oh, philosophy. Yeah. So Philosophize This podcast is really good.
Okay.
Little snippets, 20-minute snippets on. I mean, he's got like 100 episodes or something on all different philosophers. Joe Rogan, I find really interesting. He's just so casual, and he has some really interesting guests on. I don't like, he does a lot of hunting stuff and whatever, which are, but he eats everything. Like when he hunts, he like devours the whole thing, which is fine. So hunting in that respect is pretty good. But some of his podcasts are amazing. Like he's had Russell Brand on, he's had Gary Vee on. I don't know if he's had Tim Ferriss, but he just is so casual, and they're long, like 3 hours. So they're quite long episodes, but they delve quite deep into things. So yeah, philosophy's been a big part, and Philosophize This podcast is probably the best out of them from a philosophy point of view. I've tried reading a bit more philosophy, but I'm not the best reader in the world. I don't sort of sit down for hours at a time and read, especially in the evening. If I were to start reading a book, I'm conking out within about half an hour. But definitely podcasts. So in the car, I don't listen to. Well, I listen to music when the kids are in the car and whatever. And Spotify, and sometimes I will. On a Friday, I might sort of give myself a bit of a break and listen to like
give the brain a rest,
half an hour of hip hop and whatever. But most of the time, it's audiobooks. So Audible for my audiobooks. Podcasts, Spotify are pretty good for podcasts as well, which is good. And then obviously the Apple podcast app.
So it's it's a lot of philosophy at this point, which pretty much leads right into, last week we were at Brand Minds in Asia, in Singapore, and you got the chance to ask Gary Vaynerchuk the question, and the question was?
The question was, I kind of think of him, I sort of wanted to move away from the social media marketing business sort of questions, which he'd had all for the whole keynote, and went down the path of just really asking him, or telling him more than anything, that I think he's probably one of the greatest philosophers of our time, without even, actually he probably does know it.
I think
but he's just got such a great outlook on life, and very stoic in his approach to people, and what he thinks other people think of him. He doesn't care. He even does negative visualization, where he sort of talks about maybe his kids dying or whatever, and just
he does that every day, right?
Yeah. And his famous 3 words: "You're gonna die." That was a really good episode. It was a really quick one. Some lady asked him, "Tell me 3 words," and he said, "You're gonna die." And it's like. Yeah. It's a hard one to explain to some people, because it's like, oh, you're going to die. Well, that's really negative, isn't it?
You're telling me I'm going to die? What?
Yeah, but it's not. It's like, I could walk out of this door now.
It's about gratitude, right?
Fingers crossed I don't get killed, but it can happen at any stage. Or, bad things will happen in life. That's one thing I'm actually learning a lot with this philosophy stuff, or not by living life. A lot of bad things do happen. And it's the way you approach them and the way you kind of compute them in your brain, which is the key. It's all up in the head. So... asked them that question, and sort of said, are you going to bring out a book maybe that's not concentrating on the social media marketing stuff, and it's going to be philosophy? And he said yes, he's already doing one, which is the parent one, which is he's got coming out, which is interesting. But he really enjoyed that question, because when I got to meet him afterwards, he said thanks for the question as soon as we shook hands, which was really cool. So I think, I stroked his ego a little bit in it.
Absolutely.
But I wasn't sort of doing that on to stroke his ego as such. I really do think he is one of the greatest philosophers of our time, And I said 500 years from now, you may not even be remembered as a marketer, you'll be remembered as a philosopher.
Well, a lot of the philosophers were in the marketplace. And, if we start to dig into deep, we see their texts and letters and things that they've written, but actually they were
just doing
merchants
their stuff.
and business people, and they were doing their stuff. Yeah. It's just that we didn't see that. It's not on video. Yeah. There's no podcast where you can listen to. Oh, it'd be insane. Imagine being able to listen to some of that stuff. But it just wasn't available. But
the Marcus
truth
Aurelius
is,
podcast.
even even going back to like biblical, I think there's
Yeah.
a lot of references of Jesus being in the marketplace, suggesting businessman, like from
He would have been on
ancient
Facebook. He would
texts.
definitely have been on Facebook.
Yeah, so all the way through, like these philosophers, we only see their methodologies and that type of thing printed. But like, what did they do in their life? No, they were out there doing, creating, achieving,
of course,
making things happen, right?
Yeah. So I mean, it's really interesting, and it was a pleasure and an honor to be able to ask him a question as well. And it was such a good keynote. If you have the chance to go see Gary Vee, do it.
Do it, definitely do it.
Do it.
So I might wrap up shortly with this, but I might just quickly. I'm going to ask another question, but if there's chance for another question from the audience, Ben, if you're interested, so just think on that for 30, 60 seconds. But so just to wrap it up, and it's a question I ask everyone, if you've got one tip for young or for small businesses, for someone wanting to start, for people that are looking to amplify their business, what would you say is just the one thing, the one habit, the one tip that you have for them to get something moving, to grow, to build, to start?
I think that's it. Just start.
You can't use that as part of the question.
Okay. Yeah.
What's the one thing you do?
It's funny because, I mean, obviously in this day and age, small business have that opportunity that it is all there for them. Whereas back in the day, like 15 years ago or 12 years ago, we didn't have you couldn't be your own media company, yeah?
No, well, you couldn't work at night on a business because how could you make a call?
Exactly.
No one's going to answer the phone.
So I think just get deep on learning, learn as much as you can, do courses on Facebook advertising and just get your right tools together first. I think even from a business perspective, get your Asana for your tasks, your Xero for your finances, get that part sort of set, and then just keep learning and keep doing. Okay. It would be really interesting starting a business afresh now, I think.
Wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I keep thinking about. So doing other stuff, because I'm not what I would call an entrepreneur, even though that's the sort of the hashtag entrepreneur is like the sort of thing to be these days. But I'm not a business builder and seller, and that's what an entrepreneur is: somebody who builds a business, sells it, moves on, does something else.
That's a really fair point. I actually
I hate the use of it, the overuse of entrepreneur. Yeah.
Well, the only reason I consider myself one is because I've had several businesses.
Yeah.
I don't put myself anywhere near like an Elon Musk or any of those type of visionaries.
Jeff Bezos, richest man in the world.
Yeah, all these guys, and girls. Much respect to all of them. The only reason I even allow myself that title is because I've kind of done this many times.
Yeah.
So I get what you say, and if I
hadn't,
I would say no, I'm not that. Even though everyone's a fucking millionaire entrepreneur right now, and Instagram influencer and blah blah blah. To me that's not what an entrepreneur really is, and it never used to be a word. It was businesswoman.
But one day I will create the Uber of Airbnb.
Well, then you'll be
I will be the entrepreneur.
And we'll be carving out your face in a big stone
somewhere.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Awesome. So Ben, last chance. Any questions?
How do you see work and legacy, leaving an impression on your life? How do you use that today?
All right. So sorry, the question is just because it might not pick up. How do you see work and legacy?
And legacy to me is leaving the relationships with clients intact, and I think that's the legacy, is having that effect on a business or a person and helping them, giving them value, and not expecting anything in return, just doing your job and doing it good, and just being the best person you can with your clients, and that's going to automatically create your legacy, just doing the right thing. I think that's
awesome. Yeah, really cool. Oh, well, look,
man.
Mike, thanks very much for coming on the
thank
podcast.
You. Thank you.
Had a lot of fun. What have we managed to get? About 50 odd minutes there.
Wow.
So that might be pushing for one of the longer ones. So, but do you know what the funny thing is? I reckon we could do this for another 2 or 3 hours.
Yeah, man, we could keep going. Yeah, get another coffee.
Get
one of these cold brews from across the brook.
Some cold brew. Get some food. Get my packed lunch out.
Get more audience members.
That's it. No, but look, let's tie it up. So, look, thanks very much for coming on the podcast. It was a great chat. I think this leads into doing another one at some stage down the track for sure.
Part 2 would be good.
But so much love. Thanks very much.
Thank you,
and
Matt.
We'll catch you soon.
Bye.
Actually, no. Hang on. Well, I don't know. Cut this out. No, we're not cutting anything out. So where can people find you? Let's just grab your web address, your Instagram handle.
Meta Creative. You can check out the website metacreative.com.au, at Meta Creative on Instagram. And from there you can see my web address. I'd love you to go and have a look at my Instagram. Follow me on Instagram. I'll follow you back. I'll check out your stuff, see how good it is. But yeah, Instagram's where it's at, where I do a lot of my content. So I need to do a lot more on other platforms, but you know, I'm in
building blocks.
Yeah, you know, and Instagram's so good, so engaging. It's just at a great level now. Every business should have an Instagram account and be
just figure out how to do it right.
And do it right. Yeah, and that's the hard thing, and that's where the creative comes in. You got to really think about the creative. So.
Awesome.
Cool.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hey guys, it's Matt here, and thanks so much for listening to the Amplify Your Business podcast. It means the world to me that you've listened all the way through, and I'd love it if you could share it with your friends, if you want to.